Back to the matter of reaction. Not who you are on paper, not what tribe or teacher you claim, not what mystical date you circle in your diary, your reaction right now to the appearances before you. That is your creed written in living ink. Faith is not a bumper sticker or a shingle on a door. Faith is the quality of your non-reaction when the world whispers, "You are chosen," or shouts, "You are nothing." Whom do you serve in that instant, ego or Christ? You see, it is not hard to learn a word. It is hard to be still when the word is tested. Let's ask the only question worth asking at the entryway. Is the sense of being spiritually special keeping you from the living God contact? Is there a quiet pride, a subtle superiority, even a wounded inferiority that loves its label, the remnant, the elect, the inner circle? All right, don't react to the appearance called chosen people, secret elect, or my advanced level. Don't love it. Don't hate it. Don't argue with it. Meet it on the middle path where we neither fear, love, nor hate any appearance. Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. And righteous judgment is not a judgment at all. It is a resting in principle until the mist clears. Hear scripture. God is no respecter of persons, Acts 10:34. Do you see what that undermines? It dissolves the scaffolding of spiritual favoritism. If God is no respecter of persons, then the Christ of your being cannot be bribed by your titles, your robes, your initiations, or your wounds. Many are called, but few are chosen. Matthew 22:14 does not make a club. It removes the club. It means few are willing to be chosen out of personal identity, chosen out of reaction, chosen into silence. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10 is not a motto for a wall. It is an order to the twitching mind that wants to win, to be seen, to be right. Now, I must say something that may sting before it heals. God isn't mind. God isn't even soul. God is not a power to be harnessed for our side. Nobody knows what God is. And because nobody knows, nobody can own, corner, or privatize it under the banner of chosen. The Christ doesn't pick favorites. The Christ reveals itself where there is room made by non-reaction, by unlabeled stillness, by the willingness to let appearances be appearances without trying to fix, favor, or fight them. So we set our feet for this journey. We will dismantle the narcotic of specialness and install practice. Not theory, non-reaction as the daily bread, silence as the inward Sabbath. The kingdom of God is within you, Luke 17:21. Not within a caste, not within a credential. Your reaction, moment by moment, is the only usher at that door. Let us enter without noise. Now we come to the marrow of the matter. God is no respecter of persons, Acts 10:34. Not sometimes, not when we are in a holy mood, not when we are on the right team. Principle is not a preference. It is not a weather vane. He maketh his sun to rise on the evil and on the good, and sendeth rain on the just and the unjust. Matthew 5:45. Do you see what that means for your practice? It means that the law of God functions without consulting our judgments, our sympathies, or our wounds. The sun does not interview your biography before it warms your skin. That is principle. And if we would be instruments of spirit, we must consent to that same impersonality. Never enter the case humanly. Never bring your likes and dislikes, your neighborly indignation, or your parental pride into the room. Bring principle, only principle, and let appearances pass as a mist before the morning. Christ is the only identity. Now, that statement is not a pretty frame for the mantle. It is a sword that cuts away our most cherished masks. Never believe in a selfhood apart from God. Not a righteous selfhood, not a guilty selfhood, not a special selfhood. If Christ is the only identity, then the clerk and the king stand at one point in truth. The teacher and the truant share one life. The healer and the patient are one Christ, appearing as two faces in a dream. You see, the moment you consent to that, favoritism is dethroned. There are no chosen pets in the kingdom. There is Christ revealing Christ wherever there is room to be still. You are not dealing with a good side and a bad side. Do not take sides, not even the side that hires you. If labor calls you and capital scowls, or capital calls you and labor scowls, pay no attention to the scowls or the calls. Sit in the middle where you have no horse in the race, and let principle reveal what must be revealed. If the one that engaged you wishes to lose, that is his business. Your business is God business, which is to hold to the fact that there are not two minds plotting outcomes. There is one life unfolding itself. In the marriage quarrel, in the parish committee, in the studio where two artists contend for the spotlight, don't take sides. Not even quietly. In your heart, judge not, that ye be not judged. Let righteous judgment be your only posture, and righteous judgment is a non-judgment, a listening stillness that refuses to crown a personality. Now, I must say it plainly so that we do not relapse into magic. God is not a power for your side against theirs. God isn't mind. God isn't even soul. Nobody knows what God is. The moment you think you do, you have carved an idol and called it my understanding, and you will try to wield it like a sword. Put the sword away, not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord, Zechariah 4-6. Our statements, our cleverness, our emotional heat, none of these move the mountain. A split second of God contact does. Therefore, anchor your aim where it belongs. Our interest is only in bringing forth a spiritual activity, not in crowning a personality, not even a spiritual personality. If spiritual harmony can come only as one plan dissolves and another appears, let it. If it comes as union or as separation, let it. We are custodians of the silence in which principle speaks. Keep to the middle path, neither fear, love, nor hate any appearance. Be still until the sun that needs no permission shines, and in that light discover the only favoritism in this universe, the favor of grace that ignores persons and reveals itself impersonally as your very life. Now, let us put a name to the ghost that keeps rattling the pots in the kitchen while we sit at the table pretending not to hear it. The sense of being chosen, of belonging to a secret tier above your neighbor, is not a personal truth. It is a universal belief in hierarchy and scarcity, a mist that has blown over the human scene since the garden. Ye shall be as gods was the whisper then, and it is the whisper now, only dressed in new robes, inner circles, advanced degrees of holiness, badges that promise the back door to heaven. Do you see that? It is not your whisper, and it is not mine. It is a belief that roams like a rumor looking for a host. This has nothing to do with this person. This is a universal belief. Now here is the bait, and I want you to see it naked so it loses its perfume. The thrill of a secret door. Oh, it moves the pulse. The room behind the velvet rope, the forbidden syllable, the handshake, that means you are finally seen. The ego feeds on the sensation of crossing boundaries others cannot cross. On the other side of that lure is the shadow bait, the fear of being left out, the hatred of those who won't let you in. Love and hate of the same idol. That whole play is appearance. It is a temptation to react, and the degree of your reaction, whether you glow with flattery or bristle with indignation, will tell you at once whether you are consenting to serve ego or to rest in Christ. All right. Having unmasked the bait, we nullify its supposed law. There is only one power. Do not grant this belief a statute book. It has none. Specialness has no law to sustain it, once recognized as nothing. I am the Lord, and there is none else. Isaiah 45:5. When you stand in one power, the suggestion of ranks and rungs cannot govern you because there is no second power to enforce its edict. Right now we can say, without heat and without heroics, I nullify any seeming effect of this universal belief. Not by argument, not by shouting truth over it, but by recognizing it as nothing pretending to be something. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Exodus 14:13. Stand still, not to fight a second power, but to withhold your consent from a lie that has no law. Do not blame yourself for being tempted. And for heaven's sake, do not blame your brother who fell for the same rumor. If a cold wind blows and you shiver, you do not indict the body, you close the window. In the same way, when this belief drafts through your awareness, close the window of personalization. This has nothing to do with this person. Stop fastening names and faces to it, and watch how the sting goes out. God is no respecter of persons, Acts 10:34. Therefore, the Christ of your being cannot be advanced or delayed by your membership card. Your only advancement is from concept to contact, and contact is made in the quiet where there are no tears. Here is the practice frame, and it is simple enough to carry into the grocery line. When the hook of specialness appears, whether as flattery, fear, or resentment, do not fear it, do not love it, do not hate it. Take the middle path, where we neither fear, love, nor hate any appearance. Let the suggestion float as a cloud that cannot wet you. Pause, grow still for a breath. There must come a split second of silence, and in that non-reaction, the imposter loses its audience. Specialness is an impersonal temptation. Seen as nothing, it cannot govern you. All right, you ask, what does this look like when the rubber meets the road, when a life is on the line and the verdicts are cold? One midnight not long ago, the telephone rang. A student in tears, her brother in the hospital, pronounced beyond help. You know that phrase. It carries the smell of finality. Machines had done their best. The specialists had conferred, and the white coats had said, prepare yourselves. Now watch the temptation. The human heart wants to plead, to bargain, to marshal verses and make a case for mercy. But we never enter the case humanly. Never. We do not bring our love for a brother, our fear of loss, our memory of his goodness into the room. We bring principle, or we bring nothing at all. I sat down in the dark and withdrew first from the person, then from the condition, then from my own wish that he live. Don't turn to God for anything. God is not a power to be aimed at a problem. God isn't mind. God isn't even soul. Nobody knows what God is, so there is nothing to aim. This kind goeth not out but by prayer and fasting, Matthew 17:21. Fasting from words, from emotion, from the desire to change appearances. Prayer is a willingness to be still with no agenda until God announces itself. Not a syllable was spoken. Not a claim was made. I let be what is, and I waited for the click, the slightest inward shift, when the jangling mind releases its grip and silence, with a capital S, takes the seat. Minutes. I cannot tell you how many, because in that waiting, the clock loses its authority. then a presence, not a thought, not a feeling. One can describe simply the still assurance that I am is here. Be of good cheer. It is I. Be not afraid. Matthew 14:27. And with that, the work was finished. Do you see? The non-reaction to the symptoms and the verdicts was the prayer. The silence was the treatment, not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. Zechariah 4:6. Within the hour, the student called again, voice hushed, as if afraid to break a spell. The crisis had passed. Numbers that had tumbled were climbing. The phrase beyond help had quietly slipped out the back door. Now be very clear, or you will steal the glory and lose the lesson. This did not occur because of my understanding, nor because this brother had a spiritual resume. He had none. He did not meditate. He did not believe. He had not earned a ribbon in church attendance. He maketh his sun to rise on the evil and on the good, Matthew 5:45. God is no respecter of persons, Acts 10:34. Principle is faithful to itself, not to our titles. And when we stand aside, neither fearing, loving, nor hating the appearance, principle reveals its own harmony where it seems to be needed. We did not try to change an appearance. We withheld our consent from a second power. We did not coax God. We consented to God. I, God, am the solution to all problems. That is not a sentence to repeat. It is an atmosphere to discover. And once discovered, it levels the field. There are no favorites to be chosen, no outcasts to be ignored, only Christ, revealing Christ impersonally, wherever the hush makes room. Be still and let it announce itself. That is healing without favorites. Now take this out of the hospital room and put it where most of us live, in shops and studios and kitchens, where words can sting and choices look righteous. The same law holds. We do not deal with a good side and a bad side. We deal with one principle or we deal with nothing at all. And if you think for a moment that your warmth for a good cause will sanctify your partiality, you will discover how quickly warmth turns into heat and heat into reaction. And reaction is the proof that you have left the middle path. A labor dispute called me once. Well, wasn't the dispute that called. It was a man with a cause. And he had his facts, his figures, his pictures of hungry children. And, if you please, the other fellow was rich and smug and overdue for a humbling. Do you see the bait? It would be very easy to join the chant, to be the chaplain of the right side. But we do not take sides, not even the side that hires us. Never enter the case humanly. I sat still and refused to let a personality on either side claim my consent. No prayers for a contract, no statements for a victory. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Exodus 14:13. After the stillness, meetings that had been clenched opened. A settlement appeared that neither side had imagined. And hear this, because it will save you much grief. Had the man who engaged me chosen to lose, that would have been his business, not mine. Our business is spiritual activity, period. God is no respecter of persons, Acts 10:34. When principle governs, chosenness, mine, yours, theirs, has no seat at the table. And others came with a more private anguish. The work had stopped. Pages of false starts, nights staring at a blank canvas, a hunger to be exceptional that turned genius into grit. He wanted a technique, a secret oil to grease the mind. I would not give it. Don't turn to God for anything. God isn't a power to make you special in the marketplace. I can of mine own self do nothing. John 5:30. So we fasted from striving and from the narcotic of praise, just a split second of silence, again and again, until the hum of self-approval died down and the listening began. Then the current moved of its own accord. Lines came without strain. Colors chose themselves, and the work ordinary in its peace, and therefore radiant returned. Awards followed, but by then they were as leaves on a tree, lovely and unserious. He that glorieth, let him glory in the Lord, 1 Corinthians 1:31. Effectiveness appeared the minute preference resigned, and flow impersonal, shared by all, was permitted, and marriage perhaps the tenderest arena for partiality. A wife arrives first, or a husband armed with diaries of hurts and a hope that truth will take their side. We will not even quietly. We refuse a human peace patched by bargains. We consent only to the peace that rules, not the peace that pleases. Let the peace of God rule in your hearts, Colossians 3:15. Sometimes, in the hush of non-reaction, a stale union remembers its source, and tenderness returns without a contract. And sometimes, hear me, if spiritual harmony can come only by going separate ways, let's have it. What therefore God hath joined together, let not man put asunder. Mark 10-9 means just this. What God joins cannot be sundered. What man has joined under fear may need to dissolve so that God-governed life can breathe. Don't look for a winner. Let God have its perfect work. Across labor, art, and marriage, the pattern is one. When preference and personality step back, principle steps forward. When sides relax, spirit act. Neither fear, love, nor hate any appearance. Be still and let the Christ reveal Christ. That is effectiveness, and it knows no favorites. Now we come to the doorway through which all of this becomes more than language. Nobody by taking thought can contact God. You can memorize 1,000 correct statements, wear them like armor, repeat them until the tongue goes numb, and still stand outside the temple. Which of you by taking thought can add 1 cubit unto his stature? Matthew 6:27. Extend that and hear it rightly. Which of you by taking thought can add 1 breath of God to your prayer? You cannot. There must come a split second of silence, not a dramatic trance, not a sacred dazzle, just the instant when the machinery of mentation stops clamoring. And in that stop, the presence, which never came and never goes, is noticed. All right? Then the cost. Forget all the truth we ever knew. Do you see that? In the moment of approach, put every correct sentence outside with your sandals. Truth is not a tool to win. We are not trying to win a contact, nor to win a healing, nor to win a better place at the table of providence. When thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, Matthew 6:6, shut the door on teachings, on yesterday's lights, on the sweetest consolations. Be still until the click. Wait without demand. And when the inner hand touches the inner latch, click, you will know without thought that the Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him. Habakkuk 2:20. Now I must strike the idol while it is soft from the fire. God is not power to be used. God isn't mind. God isn't even soul. Nobody knows what God is. God is the eye that reveals itself. When there is no demander present to conscript it, the demander is the sense of a me that would harness infinity to a project, even a good project. Lay that me at the threshold. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. Not be still and make God do. Be still and know. Knowledge in silence is not information. It is identity felt without words. What does it feel like? It feels like the end of borders. In that hush, there is neither insider nor outsider. No initiates, no latecomers, no clever ones, no dull ones. Only I, Christ, being itself. In him we live and move and have our being. Acts 17:28 ceases to be a verse and becomes the atmosphere. The wind bloweth where it listeth. John 3-8. It does not consult your badge or your biography. The sense of a chooser and the terror of being unchosen both drain away because there is no person left to prefer or to be preferred. Christ reveals Christ. That is all that is occurring. Hold this to the thesis that guides us. The Christ doesn't pick favorites. It reveals itself wherever the claim of personhood has gone quiet. No personal claim, no personal credit, no personal agenda, just the middle path of non-reaction flowering into the great silence. And in that silence, he that is joined unto the Lord is one spirit, 1 Corinthians 6:17. One, not a rank column, not a remnant up front. We are home in the impersonal love that has room only for itself, and that is the end of chosenness. Be still, wait for the click, and let I be I. Now we take up the lever. The master left us for the stubborn knots, for the cases that will not be charmed by phrases nor pushed by zeal. This kind goeth not out, but by prayer and fasting. Matthew 17:21. Not fasting from bread, only fasting from importance, fasting from roles, fasting from the itch to be seen as the one who got it done. You see what I am pointing to? Withdraw from all status talk, even spiritual. Lay down. Practitioner, leader, advanced, student, elect, just as you would lay down a heavy coat at the door of a warm house. Go in, unadorned. When thou fastest, anoint thine head and wash thy face, that thou appear not unto men to fast. Matthew 6:17-18. In other words, no performance. Be still without banner or badge. Here is the practical fast, and it is simple, though it will feel like peeling skin. Abstain from argument. Abstain from affirmation. Abstain from checking the scoreboard. Do not rehearse your case. Do not mount a pulpit of quotes. Do not peek to see if the needle moved. Sit, listen, wait. There must come a split second of silence, and before that silence, there is the little dying, the refusal to feed on thoughts about progress or failure. Take no thought for your life, Matthew 6:25. Take no thought for your demonstration. We are not trying to win an outcome. We are consenting to presence. And until authority, inner, unprovoked, unmistakable, speaks, keep your lips and your mind from crafting a spiritual decoration. Don't turn to God for anything. God is not a power to be used. God isn't mind. God isn't even soul. Nobody knows what God is. Wait without a demander. Let I announce itself. Sometimes this means a vigil. All right? Then keep a vigil through the night if need be. No human statement of truth until there is that quiet nod within the click, the shift from I am working to I am. What could ye not watch with me 1 hour? Matthew 26-40. Watch not to strain a result into being, but to starve the self-importance that would make a result your credential. The moment you notice your mind creeping to measure, did it move yet? What does this prove about me? Gently withdraw again. This is fasting. Let the mind grow hungry for reassurance and feed it nothing. Now, name the knot, because until it is named, it hides in the rafters. Intractable cases often carry an identity investment. I must be the chosen healer. I must be the exceptional student. I must prove my calling by this very victory. Do you see that? The case and the custom are tied together. Once a man came with a family matter that would not budge. We watched it. We sat. We stilled. And always there was a whisper in him. If this works, they will know I am the one. And there it stayed, like a jar with the lid cross-threaded. Only when he consented to be nobody, no title, no witness required, did the lid find its thread. He said nothing, I said nothing, and out of that namelessness the tension loosened of itself, with no favorite crowned and no loser shamed. He must increase, but I must decrease. John 3:30. Witness the unwind and don't touch it. When identity is fasted, the knot has nothing to cling to. The river resumes its course without our oars. Not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. Zechariah 4-6. This is the capstone method because it severs the hidden root. The ego's need to be special and makes room for revelation that respects no person and therefore frees all persons. So, withdraw from status, from results, from roles. Refuse argument. Refuse affirmation. Refuse the scoreboard. Sit. Listen. Wait. Be of good cheer. It is I. Be not afraid. And in that wordless cheer, the work is finished, not by a chosen one, but by the one that never chose and never was chosen, Christ, revealing Christ. Now let us make this very practical, because specialness is not argued out of us by better concepts. It is replaced by practice, trainable non-reaction and silence, rung by rung, until the habit of chosenness finds no perch. All right? A 4-rung ladder, not a technique to get God to move, don't turn to God for anything, but a way of withdrawing consent from the universal bait and consenting to presence. First rung, universal belief. The impulse to be special, to be selected, to be the exception is not your private flaw. It is an impersonal fog that drifts and asks for your name. Say it that way. This has nothing to do with this person. This is a universal belief. Right now, I nullify any seeming effect from a universal belief. No heat, no heroics, just the recognition that there is only one power. I am the Lord, and there is none else. Isaiah 45-5. The moment you depersonalize it, its claws loosen, because there is no second law to enforce its claims. Second rung, the theology unwind. Release God as power, God as favor, God as a wind you can aim. God isn't mind. God isn't even soul. Nobody knows what God is. Put away the idol of a deity who crowns your cause and withholds from another. He maketh his sun to rise on the evil and on the good. Matthew 5:45. Therefore, neither fear, love, nor hate any appearance, not the praise that chooses you, not the slight that rejects you. Keep to the middle path. When appearances are neutral to you, they cannot hire your consent to the old theology of favoritism. God is no respecter of persons. Acts 10:34. Third rung, personal unclinging. Refuse the urge to be seen, selected, or superior. Never enter the case humanly, not your own case, not your neighbor's. Lay down the costume of the one. Hide your righteousness. Hide your grievance. When thou doest alms, let not thy left hand know what thy right hand doeth. Matthew 6:3. Do not audition for applause, and do not audition for martyrdom. If separation is the way harmony appears, let's have it. If obscurity is the way usefulness appears, let's have it. He must increase, but I must decrease, practically, in the inbox, in the meeting, in the prayer. Fourth rung, silence. Go into the closet and shut the door on concepts. Nobody, by taking thought, can contact God. Wait for the click, the split second when the demander falls away and I, God, announces itself. Thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Matthew 6:10 is not a plea, it is a posture. Sit without aim until the hush is authoritative, not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit. Then stop. The work is finished where the will to be favored has ceased. Daily drill. Each evening. Notice where today you sought to be chosen by a client, a friend, a pulpit, a screen. Name it universal. Release the theology. Drop the costume. Then rest 5 minutes in wordless consent. No affirmations. No scoreboard. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. Climb these rungs often. They do not lift you to a higher tier. They dissolve the ladder maker. And in that dissolving, Christ reveals Christ impersonally as the only life you have. Now let us speak of time, because if you carry a stopwatch into the sanctuary, you will come out with a scoreboard, and scoreboards breed the game of chosen. Don't look at your demonstration day by day. You don't weigh the peach every morning and then blame the tree for immaturity. For the earth bringeth forth fruit of herself. First the blade, then the ear, after that the full corn in the ear. Mark 4:28. Do you see that? Fruit ripens by its own season. Be patient, therefore, brethren, unto the coming of the Lord. Behold, the husbandman waiteth, James 5:7. All right, then be the husbandman. Stop auditing. Let maturity bring to light. Let God have its perfect work without your hourly inspection slips. Normalize this, because some of you feel late and some of you think you are early, and both conditions are pride dressed in a calendar. Saul of Tarsus saw a light so bright it threw him from his horse, and still years passed before he went out. 9 years, by the old accounts. You don't think he grasped it in a day, do you? No, he struggled. He unlearned. He waited in Arabia, in Damascus, in silence, until what was given could be born without burning. But let patience have her perfect work, that ye may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing. James 1-4. That is process, not punishment. The seed is not disfavored because it is seed. The blossom is not privileged because it is showy. Principle does not grade by speed. Outcome indifference is the freedom of the sons of God. If you watch the clock, you will sign up for favorites. Quick healings mean I'm chosen. Slow unfoldings mean God passed me by. Don't react to those appearances. Delay is not disfavor. Speed is not privilege. Principle unfolds itself. I have seen a fever fall in 10 minutes after the click, and I have seen a home quietly reform over 2 winters of wordless practice, and in both cases, the same sun rose on the evil and on the good. Matthew 5:45. The difference was not in God, it was in ripeness. If your matter seems to linger, that is not your disgrace. If it flies, that is not your credential. Let maturity bring to light. Your task is fidelity to practice, not collecting data points for a spiritual resume. Remember the vineyard. Those who came at the 11th hour received each a penny, and those who bore the heat of the day received the same. Matthew 20 to 9:10. You see what that undoes? The wage is presence, not prestige. The hour proves nothing about favoritism. When you rest in this, the itch to be special dies of neglect. The comparison game ends because there is nothing to compare, no early and no late in the eye that is timeless. So adopt this plain drill. Each morning, lay down your clock in the closet. Each evening, refuse the audit. No peeking, no squeezing the fruit to see if it will blush faster. In due season, we shall reap if we faint not. Galatians 6 to 9. Fainting is not collapse. Fainting is reacting, rushing to change the appearance, judging the result, envying another's harvest. Stay on the middle path. Neither fear, love, nor hate the tempo of your life. Sit until the click. Do the simple, obedient thing that appears and leave the calendar to God. As you consent to divine timing, the scoreboard of chosen goes dark. There are no favorites in the orchard of spirit, only Christ, revealing Christ in season, and the quiet fidelity that knows, without a glance at the clock, it is very good. Now let us put feet under this and walk it through the street where you live. Health first, because a breeze rattles the window and someone says, "Close that or you'll catch your death," and the newspaper trumpets contagion, and your body tightens with borrowed fear. Don't react to the appearances. This has nothing to do with this person. This is a universal belief. Right now, I nullify any seeming effect from a universal belief. Neither fear, love, nor hate a draft, a germ, a headline. There is only one power. I am the Lord, and there is none else. Isaiah 45 to 5. Infection has no law to support it in the kingdom within. You see what I am saying? Not bravado, not defiance, non-reaction. Be still and let the atmosphere of I be the air you breathe. There shall no evil befall thee, neither shall any plague come nigh thy dwelling. Psalm 91 to 10. Ceases to be a charm and becomes an inner climate when you withhold your consent from a second power. Sit a moment, wait for the click, and walk on quietly. Finance and work next. A memo goes out, promotions posted, favorites whispered, and the mind runs to calculate. Where do I stand? Who is chosen? Refuse the arithmetic. Your interest is only in bringing forth a spiritual activity, not in securing a ribbon. Don't take sides, not even your own. If the one that engaged you wants to lose, that is his business. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Matthew 6:33. Added, not earned by elbowing. Comparison is a narcotic. Let it wear off in silence. For promotion cometh neither from the east nor from the west, but God is the judge. Psalm 75 to 6-7. Be faithful in your task. Keep to the middle path and decline all favoritism language, both the flattery that lifts and the gossip that lowers. Principle over personalities, and the work finds its right form in its right hour. Now home and church, delicate ground where loyalties are braided with love. If you are not willing to leave mother, brother, sister, father for my sake, you know the word. Sometimes obedience is not leaving a house, but leaving a pressure. Consecrate wherever you are. If the family insists on prestige religion, this sanctuary, this hour, this performance, remember, the hour cometh when ye shall neither in this mountain nor yet at Jerusalem worship the Father. They that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. John 4:21-24. Man was not made for the Sabbath, The Sabbath was made for man. Mark 2:27. If spirit bids you tend a neighbor while the bell is ringing, let's have it. If spirit bids you sit in the kitchen and be still while the car idles to drive to church, be still. Let the peace of God rule in your hearts. Colossians 3:15. Rule, not negotiate. Finally, the micro practice that stitches the day. Praise arrives or rejection. A client applauds. A friend forgets. A stranger snubs. Don't react. Neither drink the praise nor choke on the slight. Be still. Let identity rest as Christ alone. He that glorieth, let him glory in the Lord. 1 Corinthians 1:31. When applause comes, hide your right hand from your left. When blame comes, hide in the closet until the sting cannot find a self to cling to. A breath, a split second of silence, and the click. Then answer the email, shake the hand, or say no from the quiet center where chosenness has no vocabulary. In these ordinary moments, the unchoosable Christ lives your life. No sides, no scoreboard, only I revealing I. All right. Then let us gather the threads into one cord. We have watched in hospital rooms, in labor halls, in studios, and across kitchen tables that the same law holds. Where personality and preference retire, principle governs. Where we refuse the bait of sides, the impersonal Christ appears as harmony, without a winner's crown or a loser's shame. He maketh his sun to rise on the evil and on the good. Matthew 5:45. That is not poetry, that is procedure. And the testimony is plain. Healings, settlements, fresh work, and quiet homes did not flow because someone was favored. They came because no one was. God is no respecter of persons. Acts 10:34. Do you see that? Now let me strike the center once more. Don't turn to God for anything. Turn to God, period, then wait. God is not power to be aimed at a condition. God isn't mind. God isn't even soul. Nobody knows what God is. We are not hiring the infinite to fix the finite. We are consenting to the infinite to reveal itself. When thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. Matthew 6:6. The reward is God as God, not God as a tool. Wait until the click. A split second will do, but wait. Let this be your sacred restraint. Never enter the case humanly. Never desire to change appearances. Never take sides, not even the side that flatters you as spiritual. Don't react to the appearances. Not to a fever, not to a memo, not to a snub. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Exodus 14:13. On the middle path, we neither fear, love, nor hate the picture. Your refusal to be moved by it is the only proof you serve the Christ and not the ego. And take this as your daily permission. Be still in Christ. Let Christ's will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Matthew 6:10. Sit in silence until the click and do not speak truth at it. Wait for truth to speak in you. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. Not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit. Zechariah 4-6. Then from that hush take the single simple step that appears, without banners, without report cards, finally for the road. Do not judge your day. Let maturity bring to life, for the earth bringeth forth fruit of herself. First the blade, then the ear, after that the full corn in the ear. Mark 4:28. Don't weigh the peach, tend the tree. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Isaiah 30-15. Unseen friends, we leave the scoreboard dark and rest in the one. The Christ doesn't pick favorites in our stillness. It reveals itself as our only identity. I live, yet not I, but Christ liveth in me. Galatians 2:20. Be of good cheer. It is I. Be not afraid. Matthew 14:27. Go quietly now. Let God have its perfect work. And in the hush between breaths, let I reveal